Okay, Russ, this is Dad's Harold's DVD, and it says, I don't know why it says just Denmark on there. Denmark, but I know Denmark's in there probably on the DVD, but there's a whole bunch of family videos. So, and his South Dakota Air National Guard videos, a lot of trips. So I'm going to let you know there's the DVD, and the DVD's in there, ready to roll, baby. And it's going to have Dad narrating it, and then I'm going to also do it with no sound, so I can edit it up and put some new music on. Thanks now. Denmark.
This tape is a culmination of home movies made by ARDEN back in the late 50s through the early 70s. This shot here is Bill Eagle and Harold Gary. This particular day, a politician was asking for some leaflets to be dropped over town, and as you can see, Stan Vandenberg, John Gross, for some helpers there using Bill Eagle's airplane to do the job. I would guess this would be about 1962, maybe, somewhere in that era. Bob Ellingson there, shot of him in the background. There's John Gross. I believe that was Marv's airplane. I think that was a Ryan PT-109. Stan Vandenberg was cranking it up. There's Kurt Shoup in a Bonanza. He was also helping out, dropping some leaflets that day. It's funny, no one got arrested for littering that day. Kid's picture got stuck in there, but I was too lazy to take it out. That's my boy Mike when he was about 3 or 4 months old. Okay, now we're into the era, 89 era, which was about early 60, 61. This shot here is Kurt Shoup checking out in the 102. Big Ole's chasing him in an old F-89. This was his checkout ride out here at the Guard in Sioux Falls. Big Ole said he had problems keeping up with him. He was going wide open most of the time. Kurt didn't have any problem handling the aircraft. Of course, he's an old pilot from way back. It was a bit of a shock. This airplane would have to use a drag chute to stop every time. And I think this was, well, this was a T-Bird that was involved with a Miss Monitor radio show back in the, there's Ellingson coming out to greet it. And this right here should be a picture of Dan Rovar giving me a ride. Here's Old Western when we had props here in town, taking off from the base. Dan Rovar, like I said, was my pilot, and I just went up with him for a ride, and he did some acro that we'll get involved with here later. Now we're upside down, and doing a few rolls. Rovar was determined to get me sick. Looks like he's trying to do a split S there, but should get a good shot of the famous roll bar nose here pretty soon. That's about as close as we got to what an astronaut feels like. There, we finally get a shot of Robar Schnauz. And coming back away. This was at guard camp. Joik and Don Knudsen and Whiskey White were walking there. There's Lloyd Stuckey out checking the Delmar. That was one of the targets that we fired the rockets at. It's made out of fiberglass. It's towed behind the T-bird about a mile and on piano wire. And I think this was at Alpena. There was Ellingson throwing a knife at Stitch. He survived. A bunch of 102s came in, and at that time we were still flying 89s and didn't have the 102s yet, so it was a pretty big deal, so I had to go out and take some pictures of them. That was the Air Force's first line fighter back in 59, 58. And then some shots of us in the 89s doing some formation flying. This was the last airplane we had that had two seats. The radar observer sat in the back. And of course we got the 102s. We went to a single seat concept and didn't need the RO. It's not a particularly beautiful airplane in the air, but it did fly comfortably. And it was pretty easy to fly formation with, even though it did have two engines. I think I'm trying to do a formation roll here. Almost made it around. Then we had to do some water skiing at a little lake up by camp. I'm not sure if this is Knudsen's boat or if we scrounged up a boat there somewhere, but we did end up with all the materials for water skiing. There's Knudsen again. Yes, he is showing off. Romaine Nelson and Joe Eakin here tried to get up, but they never make it. The boat didn't have enough power, I guess. Or showing off by Knudsen. And I think this is, yeah, that was Romaine Nelson. Joe Eakin. I think Dean Landon was out there. There's a shot of me and Romaine. Dean Gunderson. Belly flop. Okay, now we're getting some more flying over by Alpena. This should be over Lake Huron, where we had a gunnery range to fire rockets. We had to check out some more boats to see how they were doing. All these pictures are taken by my faithful radar observer, who sometimes got a good shot of the sill, as you'll see later, like right there. Phelan. You see the rockets slithering out of the tubes here if you look real close. Now we're back at Sioux Falls during a nice, cool, wintry day where the airplanes were moved over to one side so they could clear the snow. This is the Mackinac Bridge that goes up the Mackinac Island north of Michigan. Some of the guys went up there for a little R&R, so we had to take some shots of it. Somebody flew a B-47 into there once, but I guess he got grounded, so we didn't want to try it. Some more good shots of the rivets on the canopy. Lloyd Stuckey was in the other 89 that day. This was a trip to Texas, to Juarez, Biggs, I think it was, no, El Paso, Biggs Air Force Base. He had 389s in Knutson went in a little T-bird. This was when he stopped off in Arkansas to get fuel. Nice thorough check of the Form 1 there. And took some pictures of some 130s that were flying out of Arkansas or at the base here. Knudsen had a hard time with his T-bird keeping up with this because he had to carry a higher power setting. He consequently ran out of lower on fuel each time, so we had to kind of nurse him along. Get more gas at another base down in Texas. I think it took us 3 hops to make it all the way. And on the way back, we loaded off all of our souvenirs that we had brought from Mexico. Russell was interviewing Mark Randall. There's a real active team doing some work. That's quite a chore to do Harry Rich, St. John, and let's see, Mark Randall was Gail Fisher's in there doing some plunking, costing. Started off pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting to do a loop on the deck with those night airlines. Challenge. Here we had the turtle races at, well, I don't remember if this was Broken or Alpena, but I know we scrounged up a lot of turtles, blood burgers there, big million. Big numbers on them, bet on which one to get out of the cycle first. Next day's Cameraman. Federal Marshal, extraordinary. Harlan Turley. They tried the new variation, put them on the back to see which one would turn over first. It's Tom Ryan. This was the one where the lead aircraft that fired 104 rockets at once, and it gives off a blast, and you can catch it just when it happens. It'd be about right now. Send out 104 of those 2.75s, we didn't leave a shotgun blast. I don't know if we did hit the target that time or not either. Tails growing how and Knudsen, I think, let's see, we got Newek in here, Roll Johnson, I believe. Hat Belheimer, Gail Fisher, and Gordian. This was a new 89J model. It didn't have the rockets on the tanks. It was theoretically it carried a nuclear missile. Had it about 4 months. Never got a chance to really get checked out, and then the 102s came in. We started checking out those. This was a rainy day when we left camp, heading back to Sioux Falls. that was the year we got in trouble with Burger because somebody dropped a 2.75 in a rocket anchor in a cemetery accidentally up there. Never did find out how that got there. Part of the tanks on the end were the rocket pods and the back half of the fuel, but there was a pretty good steel plate between the two. Knudsen was proud of his haircut. I don't remember who or why, but he ended up being shaved bald up there. Randall and Stitch had their model airplanes up there. Okay, there's Costain. The other one's John Schelt. This is Elliott's flight suit that he was so proud of. He pretty well hammed up. Holmberg giving him a haircut in the latrine. This is the height of excitement. Back when we'd gotten the deuces, and I think we were pulling alert one day, and things were a little slow. There's Gordian running back. After, I don't know if he set up on alert or if he was just checking something out. Now Ellick is hamming it up here like he's on a scramble. Playing a little hammy. Backwards. And I gotta help him out of the intake. Yeah, it was a tough day. Here's now he's going to try it in slow motion. It still doesn't make it. Gets a little help with from the crew chief. Now Skinny Bill Eagle. And finally he gets moving. Got the 102 in about 60 and kept it to about 70, and it was about, I think, probably the most fun airplane to fly. Now we jump into the 70s and these 100s. was a little trickier to land, carried a little faster, final approach speed, about 170. But as long as the drag chute worked, it wasn't a big problem. And we had to take some shots of the Thunderbirds when they came in once, back when they were flying F4s. You can see the slot man's airplane with a black tail. Actually, I thought they put on a better show with the F4 because it made so much more noise. I think this guy here had to abort. I think that's the reason why all the mechs are running up to him. Should be jumping out of the airplane here shortly and going to a spare. Ellingson had gone out to pick up Costain and brought him home for some type of a gathering. Dick Stromer's out there saying hi, and John Kittleson. Al Zink saying hi to him. showing in his movies. Well, this is the one that those of you who watched the 40th anniversary show didn't get to see because of the overcast. So now you saw one. The old bomb burst. Field one time when we went up to try to shoot the dart. There's a shot of the dart being towed behind another 100, and it gave off a radar reflection, so our radar computed gun sight could theoretically track it. I don't remember how many times we got hits on it shooting our 20mm at it, but once in a while we'd hit it. It was a very elusive little thing. This was kind of like an ID pass to see if you can see any holes in it. Normally you'd be able to fire around 1,000 yards down to about 600. Let's see, we got Phil Kelly there, Bill Ball, Shoop, Randall, myself, John Olson, Beatty, Brian Beatty, and Denny Graber, Dan Robar. We had to have a softball game at Volk Field. DC Clausen. This was a time that we all decided at guard camp we were going to bring our families up. So we brought our kids up. We all rented cabins over by Wisconsin Dells, up at the Penwell Reservoir, I believe is what it was called. So we could take some shots of the kids out doing the water skiing thing. Nice shot of a dead carp. Young, I think, brought his sailboat up. Yeah, there it is. He did bring it up. trying to get my kid Micah, but I don't think he ever, well, maybe he did make it. That might be him there. This was Bob Jameson. He got up pretty good shape, I think. A little wobbly, but he finally made it. Dentist Denny Graber. Looks like he's doing pretty good. Kid Russell, Sweet Air. Let's see, this was a survival training weekend we had up at Alex Cabin up at Brant Lake. We had to get into a life jacket, be towed behind a boat, and unhook our parachute harness, etc., etc. Our Stitches cabin over there, Alex cabin, is the one we were doing, was standing at here. Barrel cook. Front of Alex cabin. Windy, blustery day that day, but I guess we got our square filled about getting the training requirements in. Showing some dog tricks. This was a trip we made to Anchorage, Alaska. We had taken a couple 100s and taking them out to, I think it was Great Falls, and then we got on a 130, flew the rest of the way. This is some of the mountains on the way up to Alaska. I think we're kind of spares of what we were when we flew those to Montana. We were airborne spares. Shots of the 130 droning through the air. It looks like a glacier down there. Looks like it'd be a good place to bail out. It'd be a lot of fun. A few shots of the cockpit. Anderson, we're all lining up there for a little picture. Over Palmberg, Joe Broker, Brown Ramsey, Beatty, Schmieder, Lowell Johnson, Ray Roundhorst, Lee Stubson's back there, Roger Rutt, Jerry Placco. Jameson taking the pictures. I think that's Kirk Punch. This was a 141 park up there in the ramp. At that time it was kind of a novelty, and there was a C-5, which is theoretically a pretty big airplane. Took some pictures of it from mobile control, went around the corner to take some side pictures. And then the air police come out and arrested Ian Hargens, took us down to the air police shack. Seems we had crossed over a little red line. That was a no-no. Filbert had to come down and get us out. There was a black C-130 that was in there. It was kind of a spook spy plane, or not a spy plane, but a night intruder that was used over in Vietnam for secret missions. We refueled off those KC-97s in the weather, and there's a lot of it up there. And then we went down to King Salmon and did our activities with the Army. Air Force boys had F-4s up there, and they were flying alert duty for the area. This was a KC-135 that we refueled on coming back. It's hard to get real good pictures here because I didn't have any way to fly the airplane for me. I had to fly with my knees when I was taking the shots. There's a forest fire down in Montana. This was my Reynolds checkout ride, the 100, the two-seat model. A guy named Ordine Fay was the instructor pilot. This is our first attempt at the air refueling demonstration ride and practice ride, so to speak. The ideal situation is to put the probe on the wing into that basket and put just a little hook on the hose and hold it there while they pump the gas into you. This was a fairly calm day. The basket isn't bouncing around too much, but sometimes it really gets interesting. There, right there, for a second there was probably the textbook hookup. About right in there. You really, when you were flying, you really couldn't look at the basket or the probe. You had to kind of catch it out of the side of your tunnel vision. You had to position yourself on the aircraft above or the tanker. put some nasty knots in that thing, as you can tell, and guys have broken off the probe, which is very embarrassing. Okay, now I think this particular refueling here is when Joe Broker and I, and Roger Red, Jerry Placco, took these two 100s, F100Fs over to Copenhagen. We picked them up out of Sacramento, out of the boneyard. When we started them up, the cockpit filled up with dust out of the piccolo tubes, so we knew they'd been sitting out in the desert for quite a while. And Berger was going to go with us originally, and when he took off, he couldn't come out of afterburner. It stayed on, so he had to come almost back to idle. So we had to dump fuel back and land at Sacramento. He fixed that, and finally took off the next day and got to Denver and came back and refueled, or came back to Sioux Falls, and we had about 19 write-ups in the airplanes. So we stayed here for a week, and then we finally took off and went to Boston, Westfield, by Barnes Field. And the first launch mission got scrubbed because of weather, so we came back home, went back a week later, finally got off the ground, and here we are out over the Atlantic Ocean, desperately needing gas. Otherwise it would be a long swim. Broker is in my back seat taking the pictures for me. You can see how that basket can move around. There, I got her. Now all we got to do, we had to make, I think, 4 of these hookups going over to Spain. We landed in Torrejon, outside Madrid. I think it took us about 6 hours, I believe, to fly across the Atlantic. Base at Torrejon, we couldn't understand the tower operators very good because they were speaking Spanish half and half English. It was a little hard to understand them, so the 135 driver had been in there quite a few times, so he elected to take us to the runway. So we each jumped on a wing and made a high altitude penetration, teardrop, and the whole works, down through a couple thunderstorms, which was kind of interesting. And when we went into land, Placco had unsafe gear indications, so we had to break out and check his gear over, and then he finally got on the ground okay. There's a little bit of leakage there, but not too bad. 135 had plenty of gas for the two of us. Yeah, the 100 didn't have an autopilot, but with 2 seats and 2 sets of controls, there wasn't too boring going across the ocean long as every guy took his turn driving. Here we landed at Torrejon. This is on the field. It was raining that day and kind of a nasty old place. Broker and Root walking around. Joe gives the airplane an affectionate kick. like the Spanish had no fourth tri-motor back there, junkers or something. Now we were picking up all the souvenirs. We sat around there for a week because oil sample didn't look good on Jerry's airplane. There's some F4s taken off. So we had to sit around there a week for somebody to check the oil out. So we did a lot of sightseeing, buying junk. Getting it on the airplane was a real challenge. And we'd do some sightseeing, checking out some castles. I believe this was in the town of Toledo, I think. They had a Greek, or rather a Roman aqueduct that brought water in years past. I believe he's still standing. Then we took off and had to fly up to base outside of Copenhagen called Karup. We could have gone straight across France, but France had some problems with our government. They wouldn't let us, so we had to fly back out over the ocean, go over across England, come back in over through Holland to get to this base. So it was kind of a nuisance, so we had to do some more refueling because it was just too far away. And then we landed, got a hop over here to Copenhagen, just take some shots of Copenhagen when we were doing some touristing there. We hopped on a little hydrofoil boat, I believe they called it. Little wings come up out of the bottom of this boat that rides up on these wings under the water. Went over to Malmo, Sweden, and to check it out. Spent about 4 days here before we got headed back towards home. And we talked there, you can see the wing that this boat rides up on. Makes for a real smooth ride. Just like a little airplane, they had seats in there like airplanes, and they had the stewardess come in and ask you what you wanted, and et cetera, et cetera. Prices were real high on stuff. Well, of course, we had to take a picture of the mermaid. All the tourists in the world do that. Setting is very bleak and sparse. I expected it to be a little fancier, but it's just sitting on a rock out in by a bunch of other rocks. Just crawling Japanese tourists. Then we talked to Gal into giving us a return ticket to run us to England, so we stayed over at the Columbia House over in London for a couple days. In Hyde Park, it's across the street there, but we never did make it over there. typical Englishman.